We will have our call to order, approval of the agenda, the invocation by Pastor Karen Burris. We appreciate you coming tonight. The Pledge of Allegiance, we have 5 presentations. Alachua County Sheriff's Office State of the City by Sheriff Darnell. Mosquito control, what Alachua County is doing to address Zika. Miss Evelyn McCoy from Blessed Hope is here to speak to us tonight. We're going to get an update on the firehouse expansion and an update on our 410 work week, followed by the citizens' announcements. We have our consent agenda, which is the April 24 regular commission meeting minutes, invoices, and a proclamation for public service recognition week. Just as a reminder to new commissioners, if there's anything on the consent agenda that you'd like to talk about, now is the time to pull it off. Once we vote on it, it will be too late. Then we'll move to public hearings and ordinances. We have a fiscal year 2016 to 2017 quarterly financial review and budget amendment, resolution 2017-13, and item B, legislative public hearing and second reading of ordinance 2017-04, an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, imposing a temporary moratorium or abatement upon the acceptance and or processing of applications for zoning and permitting for the establishment of medical marijuana dispensing facilities for a period of 180 days. Under agenda items, we have topics for the City of Newberry Commission, Alachua County Board of County Commissioner joint meetings, and then we'll move to comments from the City Manager, City Attorney, City Clerk, Commission, Mayor, and citizens, and then we shall adjourn. Do I have a motion to accept the agenda as read?
So moved. Second.
Any concerns, questions? All in favor of the agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. I'd like to invite Pastor Burris up to give us the invocation, please. We'd all rise and stay rising for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. If you would please pray with me. Oh, gracious God, as we've gathered here, as the city commissioners are concerned about your people in the city of Newberry, we ask that you send your spirit to be with them and all those who grace the doors tonight. We pray that your spirit will give them wisdom, will give them compassion. We pray that you will open their ears to hear what's said, to hear the concerns. We thank you for the blessings that you have bestowed upon this community. We ask you, Lord, that for all those who come before the city commissioners tonight, that you give them wisdom, that they can speak clearly, and that they know that you are with them and that the concern is for the betterment of the people of this town. And so, Lord, we pray that you will be here throughout the evening, and that everything that is said and done will be pleasing to you because it will be in the best interest of the people who live here and for the future of this community. We pray this in your precious name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, thank you, Pastor Burris from the Newberry United Methodist Church. We appreciate you. We'll move on to our presentations. We do have 5 presentations, so we have a 15-minute time limit. We'll ask if everybody can try to adhere to that as closely as possible. And Mike, would you like to start us off?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, I'll try again. Yes, Mr. Mayor. Every year, the Sheriff Sadie Darnell comes and gives us a state of the city address from a law enforcement perspective. It started back when we were in the MSTU, and now as part of our contractual arrangement with the sheriff. And I'm going to turn it over to introduce Sheriff Darnell, and turn it over to her. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. It's always a pleasure to be here in the city of Newberry, and this has become quite an annual tradition, which I appreciate and my staff appreciate, because it does give us a chance to have formal dialogue as well as to let you know of what's happened over the course, in this case, of 2016. I also want to thank Amy for the PowerPoint presentation that is displayed here in the back for everyone to see. And also we have hard copies. You all should have packets, a brochure of not only the PowerPoint, but there's some in the back of the room for citizens and other staff who may want a copy. In addition, we have some recruitment brochures. We're always looking for good qualified people, and some updated sheet of our updated programs, many of which are free. that we offer to citizens. And just some additional information. I'm going to go through the presentation as you indicated within the 15 minutes. It's chock full of information. I have to give full credit where credit is due. I have an amazing staff of individuals who work at the Alachua County Sheriff's Office, the command staff who represent you, Captain Steve Maynard. And to give you a brief update, he suffered a medical situation a couple weeks ago. He is home recovering well and going through rehab. We expect he will be back 100% in the near future. But those of you who know Captain Maynard, he serves this county extremely well and has been very supportive and involved in the city of Newberry. Lieutenant Becky Butcher, she's behind me in the crowd. She's the commander for this area. And Sergeant Bill Beck or William Beck, their contact information is in the packet. And as you know, you are welcome to contact them by email or by their phone anytime there's a need. To give a 3-year perspective regarding the calls for service versus the number of reports written for the city of Newberry, this is indicated starting with 2014. The reports are shown or the calls for service are the higher bar, just over 6,000 back in 2014, just over 6,800 in 2015, and now at 7,400 for 2016. And then the smaller bar down at the bottom are the number of reports that are written. We try to document incidents where necessary, and there were 583, 586, and then over 600 in 2016. Part of that is, I believe, reflective of the growth in the city of Newberry. So that will continue as the city of, or likely continue as the city of Newberry grows. Another way to look at the amount of major crimes or track crimes that are in the city of Newberry is the pie chart. The number one incident, and this is true for Newberry, it's true for the entire county and the other cities, domestic violence incidents are the number one crime to which we respond. They're also one of the most lethal situations to which we respond. And so we get extensive training, and we track and have oversight in those particular incidents. Additionally, burglaries are second, and assaults and batteries are third. There was a disturbing trend, a jump on your sexual batteries from, let me find the data, jumped up to 12 from 3 in 2015 and only 1 in 2014. So that jumped out at me when I saw the data. Our Criminal Investigations Division did a thorough review of each of the 12 incidents, and of the 12 incidents, 3 are connected to at least one individual, and an arrest has been made. 3 other, separate from those first 3 that I mentioned, are related to 2 individuals, and both of those individuals have been arrested. So 6 out of the 12, 50%, have been thoroughly investigated and have had people arrested and charged for those crimes. The remaining 6, there's no connection between the 6. It ranges from the victim no longer wanting to pursue charges, the case was determined to be unfounded, or the elements of a crime did not exist. So 6 of those are off the table regarding any follow-up being necessary. But that was a kind of a shocker to see that high number. And then as we go through the Patrol Operations Division, or actually this is a different way of looking at the same crimes that I just mentioned. Patrol operations, in addition to responding to incidents, they provide traffic citations, traffic enforcement. For the city of Newberry, close to 500 traffic citations were written out of just over 7,200 throughout the county. Number one offense for traffic violations, city of Newberry, is seatbelt. That's an easy one, folks, to correct, and it's a primary offense, and so it's an easy one to see, it's an easy one to spot, and it makes an easy one to write. So people will use their seatbelt. It will reduce that number. Speeding comes in a close second with 84. And again, I know there have been a number of concerns within the city of Newberry regarding the speeding. So we will out there and we will issue those tickets as necessary and give warnings when appropriate. Our warrants division also serves the city of Newberry. A total of 25 felony warrants were served in 2016, 3 misdemeanor, 5 traffic, 3 miscellaneous, and no significant changes in that regard. Our narcotics investigations, not only do our deputies in the field, in the marked units, and in the uniforms enforce drug violations, we have a narcotic task force, a drug task force. They also are less noticeable because they're in plain clothes, and they do a lot of more surveillance and behind-the-scenes kind of work. They did have 18 cases in 2016 in the city of Newberry that resulted in 10 arrests, so that will make a dent in some of the drug-related crimes. Some were marijuana-related. Marijuana wax, which is a relatively new product that use a derivative of marijuana. Methamphetamine, mushrooms, LSDs on the comeback, and crack cocaine. So you got a little bit of everything. Fortunately, well, actually, we had 2 meth lab cleanups in this area, either that was in the city of Newberry or close by. We've been fortunate in Alachua County to not have a significant number of meth labs, but it's enough that we have a specialized unit, specialized equipment, and specialized decontamination procedures. Meth is very, very dangerous and very volatile, so we're proud of our drug task force. Our Juvenile Relations Bureau, I know this is an area of special interest for the city of Newberry. We have a great group of people working in our schools, and they also provide diversion programs through our teen court. Our Washington, D.C. trip, while it's not necessarily a diversion program, it is a reward program for children 4th and 5th grade, primarily 5th grade, that are recognized for their good behavior throughout the year, and they participate in the safety patrol. Our reward to them as a community is to escort them to Washington, D.C. Very few agencies do this. In the state of Florida, there are probably maybe 2 or 3 sheriffs who do this, and it's become less and less of a commitment because of the time and resources, but it is a great experience for children who get to have that. We also participate with St. Johns County with Operation Spring Break, and we offer the Teen Driver Challenge that we've talked about here at the city of Newberry, unfortunately because of some serious crashes and traffic fatalities that have happened over the years, but we do offer that as a free program. Our great school resource deputies, Newberry Elementary School, Casey Hamilton, and I'm going to go through these pretty quickly. Montana Sayers, relatively new in the program, she's at Oakview, and then Chris Monk, long-term at Newberry High School. They all do a fantastic job. If they don't know every child's name and parent name, I would be very surprised. They focus on the security, but they also share knowledge about know the law so that children and parents are aware of what to do, what not to do. They participate in bomb threat training because unfortunately we have kids that think that's fun to do. It's a prank, but it's a serious offense. It's very disruptive to the community and to the schools. And they are highly skilled, and it's a competitive position. Those of you who I've talked to individually, this is a competitive position within our agency, and so these individuals compete against others. They want to be where they are, they work hard, and they are highly, highly trained and very well equipped. A relatively new program within the last 2 years at the Alachua County Sheriff's Office, as we've learned through research in kind of racial-based approaches, that there is some bias, has been some bias in Alachua County in the school system, and how law enforcement may approach some children, and to be conscious of that bias is a good thing. So we worked very hard in training our folks at the highest level regarding racial and ethnic disparity. And the end result has been for Alachua County school system, which supports this effort, and most of the law enforcement agencies in our county also support the concept, is to treat children age appropriately and also based upon the crime. Now, if it's a serious crime, they're going to be treated seriously and potentially as an adult, but if it's something that can be learned from and dealt in a different manner so they don't get in the criminal justice system unnecessarily, then we're going to do that. The end result has been in 2013-14 school year, there were 99 arrests or sworn complaints, which means charges were placed on children on campuses for incidents based on campus. It went from 99 to 55 in 2014-15 school year, and down to last year in 2015-2016 down to 26. The schools benefit from it, the children benefit from it, we all benefit from it. Part of what we do, we do the youth dialogue. Y'all hopefully seen some of those programs here in the city of Newberry. It's a way that we get to know youth and they get to know us. Very candid discussions, sometimes painful discussions from the standpoint of putting labels on how people feel about us and those kinds of things, but it really works well from the standpoint of building relationships, and this is expanded to the agencies throughout the county, including Santa Fe Police and the University of Police Department. Some notable cases real quick in 2016 for the city of Newberry. There was a armed robbery back in February at the Marathon gas station. A person came into the business armed with a handgun. The person took lotto tickets, cigarettes, and beer. It's an unsolved case, so anyone who may have information about who the suspects are in that case, please let us know. You did have a rash of convenience burglaries back in August, about 15 vehicle burglaries overnight. There were a lot of good work put into that case. 3 suspects were developed. 2 were held accountable. 1 was charged with 27 various felony violations, and he received 3 years probation. His name is Sean Gonzalez, and then another person involved, Wesley Addison, pled to 2 felonies and 3 misdemeanors, and he was juvenile, and he was placed in a juvenile program followed by probation. And the 3rd suspect had the charges dropped. An armed robbery in April. 2 subjects confronted a person when they were walking home. He was armed with a large knife. 2 people were identified as suspects, Ozell Hoyt and Liberian Davis. Both were arrested and served time in prison and are on probation. And that case was solved. Grand theft of a motor vehicle, Deputy McCoy doing the traffic enforcement. You never know where that's going to take. It turned out to be the stolen vehicle and the person not having a driver's license, and also they were in possession of drug paraphernalia. And then a burglary of a residence in June. Somebody tried to break into a residence while the victim was at home. There was a quick response to the situation, and Edward Whitman, who was responsible for 3 other burglaries in High Springs and in Gainesville, and also here in Newberry, was identified and arrested, and he is waiting trial for those burglaries. An update on an unsolved murder case on Miss Lila Leach that occurred back in July of 2010. There's been work done over the years on this case. We do plan to have an extra attention brought to this case this Thursday. You'll see some media attention about it. There's been a lot, as I said, behind the scenes that has been done on this case. We're now at the point that we want to reach out more to the public with that information and to encourage people who may have information to come forward. Our detectives have done just a tremendous job. It's a horrible, tragic case, and we're very hopeful. It depends on people coming forward and be able to substantiate and verify some of the information that we've been able to develop. So we're very hopeful on that case, but that will be happening this Thursday. Sexual predators, you've got 16 sexual offenders and predators in the city of Newberry. As part of our service to you, we provide their picture, their updated information, the vehicles they drive, as well as where they live and their charges. The events that we participated in over the last couple of years, we try to capture those in a photographic moment. The parades and events are always fun. Congratulations again on your wonderful event that you had this weekend. You had a great deal of publicity about that. It worked out really well. We were happy to be a part of it, and look forward to having our continued relationship. I'm not going to go through each of these additional services that we provide, but just to expand upon the fact that my agency, the men and women who are at the agency, enjoy, value, and consider our relationship with the city of Newberry to be not only professional but also mutually beneficial. And so we look forward to hopefully serving you in the near future, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Sheriff. Does the commission have any questions for Sheriff Darnell?
I'm just glad you're still working on Lila Leach's case. Thank you.
Thank you. We actually have some amazing detectives, and it's a special skill set. It takes a lot of patience, and they have done just a great job. And it's been a coordinated effort, but sometimes it takes a long time, and sometimes you come up against a wall and not getting some of the information. But I don't want to raise expectations, but we have high hopes, and we're going to be working very hard. But thank you.
Any other commission? Commissioner Farnsworth?
Yeah, were there any illegal aliens arrested in Newberry?
I'm sorry?
Were there any illegal aliens arrested in Newberry?
For not that I know of from any local charges, local or state charges, and certainly I know definitively not from any federal charges.
I just want to know if any of them were arrested and released.
Do you know if the ones, we had 5 that were made the national report, so to speak. I don't believe any of them came from Newberry.
Okay.
And as I understand it, they're still in our jail.
Any other commissioners? Sheriff, do you participate in civil asset forfeiture?
Yes, we do.
So the 12,000 plus in currency that was seized in Newberry, what happens to that currency?
If there are 2 ways. It's either a state forfeiture or a federal forfeiture. I believe the 12,000 that was seized as part of the drug enforcement is more of a state forfeiture, and that's used for it's statutorily prescribed as far as what the use can be for. It can be for crime prevention programs and equipment and training. Specifically what that 12,000 that was seized for, I don't know, but we'll be happy to get back with you.
Does it stay with the agency that seized it primarily, or is it a percentage break between the state and the agency?
It depends. If it's a seizure that happens as part of the drug task force, there's a formula split based upon the personnel assigned to the drug task force. We have agents or personnel from the sheriff's office as well as the Gainesville Police Department, and at least some personnel from the University Police Department. So there's a prescribed formula based upon the number of personnel who were involved at that particular incident at that time.
Okay.
So I'd be happy to get back with you to let you know.
I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
And Commissioner Farnsworth, would you like a feedback regarding the 5 that I know of that were determined to be foreign-born, whether they came from the city of Newberry? I'm not sure if my agency made those charges, but they should. If they're still in our jail, we should be able to backtrack that and let you know.
Yeah, any kind of update. I just don't want to have our citizens subjected to people that are here illegally, and I think for a safety measure, they should not be re-released into society. They have broken the law, so they should be prosecuted as such.
Mr. Mayor, there are different opinions on what process to go through with that, but I hear what the commissioner is saying, and we'll answer his question about what agency arrested them and whether they were from the city of Newberry.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before I open it up to any citizen comments or questions of the sheriff, just remind you that we are in contract negotiations with ASO right now, and tonight's presentation is about the state of the union on past services received. So if you have questions about the upcoming contract, now is not necessarily the appropriate time. Neither party's ready to address those kinds of questions. But if there's anybody in the audience who has any question about the presentation that we saw tonight, the information that was presented tonight, now would be an appropriate time to ask those questions if anybody has some.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commissioners.
Thank you, Sheriff. All right, hearing none, we will move to the mosquito control, what Alachua County is doing to address Zika. Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, Jamie, are you going to introduce our guest? Jamie Jones, our Utility Director, will be introducing our guest who's going to share a presentation with you.
We have Anthony Dennis with the Alachua County Department of Health here, the director, to speak to mosquito control in Alachua County and what the health department is doing to address Zika.
Dennis.
I think we're on. Good evening. Thanks for having me to give you an update on Zika, which has been an emerging issue since January of last year, and also kind of what the health department does with mosquitoes countywide. So we've learned a lot from dengue and chikungunya in the past, and what we found is key partnership with local mosquito control districts or departments, and City of Newberry Public Works is a key partner in this. Also, targeted educational campaigns are really the backbone to addressing mosquito-borne disease issues. And there is a protocol with Zika. What we do, it's a CDC protocol. It consists of, the first thing is testing. State laboratories, our labs, when this became an issue last year, our state labs really stepped up with the help of the CDC to be able to do the testing. It's free for pregnant women, suspected local cases, and uninsured individuals. Statewide, 13,000 people have been tested, and more than half of them were pregnant women. So it all starts with any mosquito-borne disease is a reportable condition. Same thing with Zika. So anyone suspected of having Zika virus infection should report promptly to the county health department. And what happens is, if you have, for it to be a case, if you have traveled to a Zika-affected area, which is primarily Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Jamaica, and Nicaragua, and also there are 2 areas in Miami that were in that. They're currently not on that list, but if you've traveled to one of those places and you have any 2 symptoms, which could be fever, rash, joint pain, red eyes, any of those 2 cases with the travel history, it's a suspected case. The health department would do testing. We partner with local blood banks statewide, federal partners to ensure blood supply is safe. Governor Scott directed DOH to provide the free Zika risk assessment and testing to pregnant women at all county health departments. We're continuing to improve our laboratory capacity, and we deploy our staff and CDC staff if there's ever a local outbreak, which we did see down in the Miami area. So part of our, when there's a suspected case, we will go out, I think my slide's out of order, I apologize. When we have a suspected case or we have an outbreak, we do door-to-door surveys, business surveys, pop-up clinics, environmental health assessments, mosquito control inspections, and that's where our partnership is really key. Direct education, outreach to business owners, and public meetings if necessary. So the current status as of April this year, in 2016 there were 285 locally acquired cases. That means the transmission was happening in the state of Florida, and that happened in the Miami area. We had 1,112 imported cases. 292 of those were pregnant women, 44 undetermined cases, and 3 sexual transmission cases. The Zika virus can be transmitted sexually. So far this year, we've had 2 locally acquired cases, again, both in the Miami area, 30 imported cases. And as I mentioned, the top 4 countries for imported cases is Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Jamaica, and Nicaragua. And all this information that I'm going to share with you tonight, and there's a lot of educational materials. The health department has a web page dedicated to Zika, and I'll kind of show that at the end. So here we are, and you can see Alachua County, we've had travel-associated Zika cases. We've had We've done 35 investigations, or excuse me, 28 investigations where there's been a suspected Zika case, and I'll go into depth on those investigations. And 12 of them have been confirmed by testing to be Zika. And we kind of stick out like a sore thumb here. And the reason for that is we have the University of Florida, we have a lot of international students, we have a lot of teachers that, and a lot of people that travel to these affected countries. They come back, they have any of the 2 symptoms, they've traveled there, an investigation, we're notified, it's a reportable condition, we're notified, we do, the first thing we're going to do within 24 hours is, first thing we're going to do in the first 24 hours is notify our partners if there's a case, suspected case in the city of Newberry. We're going to notify, probably going to call Jamie, we're going to notify Public Works. The protocol says we go out to that area of concern and we evaluate it for any mosquito breeding sites. We also set up a BG trap to see if we have the mosquito that's capable of transmitting the disease. If that's the case, and meanwhile a blood sample is being taken for confirmation. It's an epi case. Our epidemiologist is providing education to the patient, potential patient, on stay indoors, wear protection, because what we're trying to do is not infect our mosquito population, because then you can start getting local transmission, then you have an outbreak. So that's the goal, is to extinguish that before it becomes a threat. If mosquito breeding is found and we have the vector mosquito, then mosquito spraying is done within 150 yards of that area. Fortunately, we haven't had to do that. And we're talking about draining standing water. These slides are from the Miami area. We've seen this be an issue in this county. Any tire out in the open is going to trap water. It doesn't evaporate, and I can't tell you how many tires I've come across, and they're actively breeding mosquitoes. Because anything that can trap a water, even from a cap off a bottle, can breed mosquitoes. They found this to be an issue in Miami. These barricades, actually they fill them up with water to keep them stable, and they were breeding mosquitoes. We don't, bromeliads are known, they're designed to trap water. These vector mosquitoes, they're urban mosquitoes, they love this environment. So that's the first, I mean, that's what we're going out and looking for. We do messaging, a lot of outreach activities to the citizens to make them aware, and I'll go over that educational material. So it's all about drain and cover. That's been our outreach program for the last several years. Drain any standing water, cover your skin with comfortable clothing, cover your windows, make sure you have the screening. It's hard to do, especially the spring we've been having, leaving your doors wide open and windows open. Make sure you have the right screening in. As I mentioned, our website has, and I'm sure you get a lot of questions, or Public Works may, you can certainly direct, and my contact information will be on there, you can certainly direct them to the health department, but everything I've said and all this educational material is found on our website. Your mosquito control has these. These are door hangers. If we have an area of a concern where we know that there's mosquito breeding going on, these can put on the doors. They're very popular. Helps get the message out. It's really about awareness, making people aware, because a lot of the breeding can happen in your own backyard. More educational materials. All these things can be downloaded from our website and printed. We've, as I mentioned, two key things: educational outreach and partnership. The health department started a big grassroots campaign to get this message to the children, so it gets home to the parents. All your schools were given. There's programs for elementary school, middle school, and high school about spilling the water. Kind of make it a mission of the children. Go in their backyard, look, put them on a mission to spill anything that contains water. So this material was given out to the schools last year. Also on our website there's a lot of good reference material. So in summary, Florida is one of 2 states which has experienced local Zika virus transmission. Texas is the 2nd state. Preparation is the key. Publication, education, and partner support is critical. So it's really a team effort with everybody. Any questions about what the health department is doing? I'd be happy to answer.
Awesome. Mr. Commission, any questions?
I was just kind of curious, is there any kind of education going on in the school system regarding this?
Yeah, absolutely. There's three programs divided. Let me go back to that. Right here, 3, and all the school health nurses and principals. This was given to them last year. There's a program for elementary school kids, one for middle school, and one for high school. So they're made to address that particular age population.
I mean, I've only been out of school for a few years, but I remember with that, they told us, go check your yard for any kind of standing water and get rid of it. And, I remember having to walk through my yard to look for all that kind of stuff. So it was beneficial in that regard, and I just wonder if they were continuing that.
That's exactly what this campaign does, is to bring it down, bring the focus of perspective down to your backyard and anything. It's called Spill the Water, and put these children on a mission to go find standing water in your backyard and empty it. Because that's mosquitoes do not travel far. We know that, especially with these vector mosquitoes. They don't travel very far, and a lot of times the problem that you may be getting from mosquitoes may be coming from your own backyard.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Dennis from the commission? Does the audience have any questions for Mr. Dennis from the Alachua County Health Department? We want to appreciate you coming out tonight, giving us this presentation, and for all the work you're doing. One of the blessings of living in America is that we have this kind of infrastructure in place to deal with these kinds of issues, so that we help prevent them before they explode. So appreciate the work you're doing and all the education that you're doing. It really is appreciated.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir. All right, and I lost Miss Evelyn. Did she switch sides on me? Is she?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I believe, I got it. Miss Evelyn had to leave. She had something she needed to take care of.
Okay.
She just asked that her purpose in being here tonight was to simply thank the City Commission for the things that the city have done to support her and Blessed Hope during the past 17 years. And as I understand it, that was her message. She just wanted to say thank you, and she appreciates you.
All right. Well, thank you all back at Blessed Hope. We appreciate what you guys do. All right, then we will move on to item D, the firehouse expansion update. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have Travis Parker, our project manager for the firehouse expansion project, is going to share with you this evening.
Evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. I am here to present to you the update on the fire station expansion and additions. We are approximately 75 days into it. Also, something along the lines of 37%. To date, we have put the foundation in, we poured the slab, we've got construction of the masonry walls, we've got the split face in, and all the CMU block. After this photograph, we put the window sills in, and we've got the electrical rough in and the plumbing. So at this point, we just installed the beams on the north side to start construction on the other tower besides the ambulance bay. Some progress photos. This is the foundation footing on the left. After that one, you see the stem wall and the initial CMU block that's going up. We went up with the split face and then went to just basic CMU. And then the slab prep was getting all the electrical, plumbing, and the rough-in. And there we are with the completed slab. You can see the CMU walls. That's going to be, you're looking on the photo on the left, you're looking from the north side, and you're looking south, and that is going to be the new living quarters. And at the far end, you can see the ambulance bay. Second picture is the ambulance bay, and that is looking from the west side. That's the entrance to it. And then the east view of the ambulance bay on the right. So far, budget-wise, we've completed one change order, and it was for owner direct purchases for material, building material. To date, we're at $71,215.41 off the contract price, and we're looking to get to somewhere around $100,000 on that. Total tax savings of $4,346.49.
Say that again. 3,000?
$4,346.49.
Thank you.
And then we are working on change order number 2. It's basically in regards to some changes in building material and maybe some changes in the work scope. Right now it's looking really good. We're going to be maybe at a credit or a wash, something like that. So that should be coming down the pipe within the next week or so. In the schedule, as far as milestones dates are concerned, substantial completion is August 16, 2017. Final completion is 30 days after that, September 14th. Substantial completion is 180 days, and final completion is 210 days after we begin. Notice to proceed. Upcoming work, we are going to be putting the bar joists and the metal decking in. That's going to be between the 2 towers and over the existing and new living quarters. We're going to put the tower trusses up and the decking, doors and framing, demolition of the existing exterior walls, kind of start expanding outward. Interior framing, flooring, ceiling grid, some of that stuff is what staff is going to do. And then the electrical plumbing trim out, get everything finished up there.
Travis?
Yes, sir.
On the dates and the upcoming work, I know that in this project, we didn't seek bids or budget for replacing the roof on the existing portions of the facility. In our work of tearing down walls and doing things, are we still in the same place thinking that the existing roof is going to last longer? Have we found, is there any update on that roof?
We're looking into that, and I will report the findings. As far as the over the apparatus bay, I do believe that we are going to need to address that in the near future rather than later. So we're looking into that now, and then I'll report the findings to you.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. That's all I got.
Oh, I didn't mean to stop you at midway there. I was just going to get you on the upcoming work. Okay, well, are there any questions from the commission per the firehouse expansion? Looks beautiful over there.
What's the color supposed to be when it's all done?
We're going to, at this point, we haven't finalized, but we're looking at, on the split face, it's going to be a darker tan color. And then above that on the CMU is just going to be a lighter tan, and then like darker reddish roof color trim.
Do we hire a consultant to come up with the best fire department color scheme? Was that?
He's right there.
All right.
Yeah, we refer to that burnt red as public safety red. And if you want to see what it looks like, drive by any firehouse that's been erected in the last 10 years, and that's the going color. It's pleasing to the eye, though. That's the nice thing about it.
Well, I think it makes sense to have them all the same color. People associate those services. Are there any other questions from the commission? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, hang on one second, Travis. Commissioner Martin.
You said we were about 37% of the way through the scope of work, and how far along through the timeline does that put us? Also?
75. We're 75 days in.
Of 200?
180 days. 210 is final completion. So we're on schedule right now to either finish at substantial or potentially a little before.
Very good.
Yes. The takeaways to me, We're on schedule, a little ahead of schedule. We're a little bit under budget currently.
Thank you, Travis. All right. Moving on to item E, the update on the 410 work week, which I'm very much looking forward to because I have not received a complaint, and I can't remember how long. So tell us why.
Tell you why? Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor and Commission. At the last 410 schedule update in November, we discussed some additional updates that were going to occur in some of the departments to enhance the 410 work week schedule that were of some concern to the Commission, and some of those were in the building department, access to city offices is needed, and the water wastewater department, and the finance department utility billing, access to utility billing, customers to pay their utility bills. The building department, one area of concern for the Commission was the building department. Specifically, issues were public access to the services on Fridays to conduct business. Some of these issues were to be able to review building plan reviews, building inspections, to schedule them for Fridays, building permits to be able to go and pay, pick up, and schedule permits. Certificate of completions, they were able to go and pick up their certificate of occupation. Local business tax, they could go there on Friday and pay for their business tax licenses, and to also go to the code enforcement department to report code violations. Some of the other services they do in that department on Friday that the public can access is they have a notary on staff to provide that service to the community. In January, the building department hired building inspector Gene Stockman. And by hiring Gene, with the additional staffing, the building department has increased their hours of operation from a 4 10-hour work week to a 5 10-hour work week, increasing the work week and access to the public by 10 hours in operation to access additional, the 10 hours the public can have to basically go any day during the week. It's a 50-hour work week for them now. For additional department information, individuals can call the 472-3927, extension 124 or 126 for additional building department information. City Hall recently was also, staff have made a lot of accommodations to be open when there are special events happening within the community. Recently, with the election, the Friday prior to the city election, City Hall was open to accommodate those individuals coming to and be assisted to vote by absentee.
And you have the numbers. How many people took advantage of that?
I'm not sure, City Clerk.
You'll get back to me.
I emailed it and I'll.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
It's a handful.
In our water wastewater department, they have recently changed their hours of operations to a 5-day work week. On Friday, the water waste department has staff on duty to satisfy a water treatment plant permit requirement that we have with the for the wastewater plant, and that with the additional time after that, they go and they check the water wells and do testing for those. The water wastewater department currently is staffed the 5 days with 8 hours on Friday, but in the future, probably no later than June, they will go to 5 10-hour days as well. The finance department, after our call center for utility customers, the finance department continues to make these things easier for utility customers to conduct business 24/7. Utility customers can call the 472-2161 number and get our after-hour call center. And the after-hour call center, they provide all the services that people can get coming to City Hall for assistance in the utility building department. They can they can create accounts, they can close service, open service, anything that they can do during regular business hours at City Hall. Utility customers can also go to www.ci.newberry.fl.us to the city's online bill payment and account inquiry to pay their utility bills. They can check the status of their accounts and check their account history. They can also sign up for e-bills and to receive a PIN and password or to retrieve a PIN and password. And those are some of the major updates that we had for continuing to enhance the 410 work week.
All right. Well, they certainly seem to be working from my perspective anyway. The commission have any questions about the 410? Commissioner Martin?
No, Mr. Mayor, I concur. I think the adjustments that we've made along the way, I think, have been worthwhile from the lack of any comments that we've had one way or the other. So appreciate the flexibility.
Thank you.
Does anyone in the audience have any questions about the 410 workday? Come on up and state your name for us, please, Marlon.
Marlon Day with the Alachua County Library District. Did you say the building department offered notary service? Yes. Could you expand on that a little bit?
In certain departments, we have city staff who are notaries, and in the building department, we have a notary that is on our regular staff member who is a notary, and on those days that that person is on staff, people can go in, and we have a fee schedule that they have to pay, but they can receive notary services and pay for and have it done right there at the Little Red Schoolhouse.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? All right, we will move to citizens' announcements. This is the opportunity for citizens to come on up, tell us what's going on. Come up with a posse.
Well, all y'all know me anyway, so.
Well, you got to say your name anyway, Mr. Watson.
My name is Mr. Watson, and I'm going to introduce my team. This is the board. This is Don, Mike, and this is my son. He's going to explain to you, Nathaniel, everything that's going on and what we plan on doing.
All right. Good to see you again, Nate.
Nice to see you, Mr. Marlowe. Mayor Marlowe. I like it. I like it. How's everybody doing tonight? That's
Wonderful.
good. That's good. I'm a little nervous, so you got to excuse me.
Very informal, just like class.
I see. We're looking to start our very first Newberry's first annual Blessed Hope charity event on July 1st. It's going to consist of a basketball tournament. Let me back up. I coach basketball at Bell High School. I coach the middle school team. And so I am putting together a 6-team tournament. And we will play, the games will start at 9 o'clock. And the championship game will be played at 3. We will have raffle tickets included probably in the admissions ticket, but we haven't really gotten that far yet. We're just kind of in the works of it. And 65 years and older will get in free. So that's
Nice.
a plus.
Food, barbecue, chicken dinners.
Yeah, well, I think we are going to we're going to sell dinners.
Okay.
We're going to sell dinners, and we're going to have a concessions. But I'm thinking if you pay to get in and you sell dinners and you have a concessions, well, that's kind of a little bit too much. Exactly. And it's a charity event, so.
And do you have a location secured yet?
Yes. The sports complex has offered to let us use their facility on July 1st.
Easton Sports Complex?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. Now, the questions that we have are, do we need a permit in order to get this done?
Mr. Manager?
Just get with us tomorrow. We'll take you through the whole step. Get with Brad or me. Just contact me by cell phone, and we'll take you through the whole process and answer any of those specific types of questions.
Okay.
I think that would probably be the best thing to do, sit down with staff. It sounds like you guys have already reached out and have the location secured, so staff will work with you on the details and answer any questions that you have.
The short answer is, if you're renting our facility, you wouldn't need a permit. Now, if you have other questions, we'll be really happy to sit down with you and walk you straight through it. It'll be a simple, painless process.
Understand.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you for what you're doing for Blessed Hope. We appreciate it. Are there any questions? Commissioner Martin?
Yes, sir. If folks want to get involved and volunteer or help in any way, you got a name, number, email, event listing on Facebook?
Yes. You can.
All the above?
Yes.
Or you could give that information to staff, and staff could email it to all of us so we could share it. But go ahead and read it in. If you have it figured out, read it into the microphone.
What we can do, you can contact me, Don Ricard, 352-214-8334, or at my email, Don_Ricard, that's RICARD, @yahoo.com. So anyone would like to get involved, that would be great. Mr. Watson and Nathaniel here came to Blessed Hope to, render their services. He's a great young man, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun. And he loves children. And these are. Did you come up with the? Yes, this one. Where was it? Yeah, what he the whole idea is people helping others through playing games we love. You get your kids back out playing outside instead of on these games and on their phones. We all used to do that. You'd have to drag us in at night to come for dinner, but they don't do that anymore. So we're going to have a lot of fun, and we are going to have food. We're going to have some great raffle prizes and so forth. So please, this is just the beginning. Yeah, the beginning.
Teaser. We got it.
We
got it. July 1st.
Going on, and once we get it totally finalized, we're going to come back again and let you know exactly da-da-da-da-da.
All right.
All
Sounds
right?
wonderful.
What we're doing, this is not going to be just a one-time thing. It's going to be, I want to do it annually if we can. And what I want to do is I want to add something to it, like maybe police coming in, talking to the kids, maybe, just up it. Because we as citizens of Newberry, we are here to help other citizens. And when I had the last council meeting and then me and him got together, I said, okay, being that my son is a coach and I'm retired, so this is what I do.
Well, we appreciate you guys stepping up to help out. Good to see you making good things happen, Nate. So we appreciate everything you're doing. We look forward to coming back, and maybe next time they come back, we can get them on the agenda so they can give us a whole presentation about what they're doing and go through the whole.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. All right. Are there any other citizen comments tonight? Come on down, Mr. Day.
Marlon Day with Alachua County Library District. Would like to make you aware of one event that we have next week. We have a coffee tasting event. It's going to be at 2:30 on Wednesday, May 17th.
Coffee tasting event?
Coffee tasting event. We
All
have
right.
Andrew Ham from Flagship Coffee Roasters. He's going to bring in a number of different varieties of coffee. It's going to be at 2:30 in the afternoon on Wednesday. With the Lions Club, we do have our spring raffle going on. We're selling raffle tickets for $1. Grand prize is $100 in lottery tickets.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Day. Any other citizen comments? Chair recognizes Ms. DeLuzio, Citizen Amy DeLuzio.
And last year, I bought lottery tickets from the Lions Club, and I won more than I donated. So
All
everybody
right.
needs to get out and get those tickets.
Oh, what a plug. Yes. All right. Any other citizens' announcements tonight? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as read?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner McGehee, second by Commissioner Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Moving into public hearings and ordinances. All right, Mike, you want to take us through item A?
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor. Quarterly, we provide you with a budget review, and Dallas Lee, our Director of Finance and Administration, is going to do that tonight.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Commissioners. As the manager indicated, every quarter we provide you guys with a financial overview of how the city is doing in terms of its budget and the general city's financial health. At the end of the second quarter, which ended at the end of March, we are 50% through our budget year. Overall, we're doing very well. We're over collecting on our revenues and underspending, so that's always good. As always, this information has not been audited, so please be aware. Starting off with your general fund revenues, this is just showing where your revenues have come from. Of course, the majority of your revenues come from local taxes, mostly property taxes, communication service taxes, public service tax, etc. And then your next largest chunk is from your charges for services for recreation fees, different fees, mostly solid waste as well. We are 65.7% collected in budgeted revenues at this point during the year. So we are up over the 50% benchmark. That is to be expected as we do collect property taxes front-loaded. This is a pie chart of where you're spending all your money. Overwhelmingly, the City Commission spends most of its money in public safety. So we spent 37% of our total expenses in the general fund on public safety. That would be your law enforcement contract, your fire department, codes enforcement, and building department. And then the next largest chunk is your general government, which is commission, finance, city manager, attorneys, planning, all that good stuff. So this breaks down your general fund revenues and how much we've collected so far. Like I said, we're doing really well. We're above 50% on almost everything. So we will definitely hit our budgeted revenues this year. In your general fund expenditures, for the most part, every department is on track at either 50% or below. The only two departments that are above the 50% mark are your non-departmental cost center and your streets and roads cost center. The non-departmental is above target just mainly due to some front-ended expenditures, your insurance payments, some debt service payments that the non-departmental pays. Streets and roads is above the 50% because we paved Newberry Lane, so we had a large expenditure at the beginning of the year. Aside from that, every other department is right on track, and as a whole, we're underneath the 50% at 49% spent. In some of your other minor governmental funds, capital improvement fund, obviously you just had a presentation about what we're doing in that area. We've spent 22% of the budget in that area. We've collected all the revenues we anticipate collecting. In your debt service fund and your Champions Park fund, those both have to do obviously with Champions Park and the bond payment. We have made all of the bond payments that we are scheduled to make this year and collected those monies from the county. And then the Champions Park fund, we've spent some of the money we have left from the county with anticipation to spend more as the year progresses.
Commissioner McGee.
Just got a question about the Champions Park. Is that correct that we will be finished with that in June? Is that the projected? I thought I had heard that the bond for Champions was to be paid off this year.
Mr. Mayor, there have been some preliminary discussions from the county side. The county does have the option per our interlocal agreement to pay off the bond whenever they choose. The county has contacted us inquiring about that, but beyond very preliminary discussions, we haven't heard anything officially. But the county has indicated they are looking into paying off the full debt by the end of the summer. We currently owe about $3 million.
And I'd just point out that per our interlocal agreement, even if they pay the debt service off early, that doesn't change the city's responsibilities on our share of the agreement to put heads in beds and those types of things.
Diamond Sports Park. Diamond Sports Park has generated $1,900 so far this year, which is pretty good. At the same time last year, Diamond Sports Park was $11,000 deficient in revenues over expenditures, so doing really well year over year in revenues at Diamond Sports. In your electric fund, again, we're right on track. We're a little bit low in your sales, but like I said, the first 2 quarters represent mostly your winter months. We have a little bit lower consumption, so we expect to see that pick up. And your sales are obviously, less sales you have, the less purchase power you have. So you can see in your purchase power, you're also below the benchmark. So doing well there. If you look at your true operating expenditures and your operating revenues, which are those revenues that are directly related to the sale of electricity, we are deficient in revenues under expenditures, so we have about a $5,000 loss in true operating revenues, so we haven't recouped it in straight operating. However, once you factor in our non-operating revenues, which are penalties and interest we've earned on our different investments, you are in the positive, so about $7,000 up on that. The commission and staff have invested about $221,000 into capital assets into the electric system infrastructure so far this year. In your water and wastewater fund, we are also right on track about where we expect to be. Again, sales are down a little in both, but again, we expect consumption of water and wastewater to increase in the summer, hotter months. In your water utility, we're about $4,500 deficient in revenues over expenditures. And in your wastewater utility, we're about $20,000 deficient. In that $20,000, though, there are about $17,000 worth of unanticipated extraordinary O&M, which had to be done. In the budget amendment that we are asking for approval tonight, we are asking to move some of the depreciation reserves into those expenses to cover for replacement and renewal of some of the utility that we had to do this year. In your water utility, you've invested about $90,000 into the infrastructure, and in your wastewater utility so far, you've invested about $76,000 into infrastructure.
Dallas, can you give us an example of what that extraordinary expenses have been? Just don't have to go through the list, but give us one that we can.
I believe one, and Mr. Jones can correct me if I'm wrong, was the pump, lift station pumps, a pump at a blower pump at the wastewater plant that blew.
You're doing good.
Yeah, there you
You're
go.
doing good.
And it has to be fixed, so those sorts of things. And a good portion of those, at least some of them, are items that have been were in the CIP, but then they broke, so it's really just moving them forward in time, so they move up in the CIP.
Would that include the SCADA?
The SCADA is not Mr. Mayor, the SCADA is not included in this budget. Part of my request for your budget amendment tonight is to authorize the increase of the budget to pay for that SCADA system.
And to be clear, some of our extraordinary expenses have been patching our SCADA system together. I know we had to replace a board that was like a king's ransom to purchase, probably $4,000 or so. So some of these expenses do reflect ongoing issues we've had with our SCADA system.
This is, it kind of cut off, but this is your long-term debt as of April 15th. The way our debt schedule works is we pay a debt payment in February, and then we pay one in April, and then we pay one in February, and then March, and then April. And now we'll pay one in February, and then March, and then April, and then May. So at this point, you've paid most of your debt. We do have 2 more long-term debt payments related to your SRF loans in the water and wastewater system. As you can see, you started the year at just under $7.3 million in debt. We currently have just under $6.2 million in debt, so that's a 16% decrease. And then obviously in the last quarter, the commission did issue about $400,000 in new debt for the fire station expansion project. The budget amendment that we are asking for authorization for tonight has a few minor adjustments in most funds, and then one pretty big one. In your general fund, the only items we're asking for adjustment on are recognizing sponsorship revenues from Westfest, and then subsequently expending those funds. And then I'm taking money from Jamie because he completed the Newberry Lane resurfacing project under budget, and so we're returning that surplus back into the gas tax reserves. In your enterprise funds, we're asking for $472,000. across all three funds for the purchase of the SCADA system that was approved by the City Commission at the previous meeting. And then in the Customer Service Internal Service Fund, we're asking for some adjustments to recognize grant revenues from both FEMA and from FMPA. So, are there any questions?
Does the commission have any questions for Dallas? Commissioner Coleman.
Where was the Christmas stuff at? Was that in that? That's not in the long term, is it?
We did not issue debt for the Christmas decorations. We kind of just took it out of our savings account and are paying our savings account back, but it's all in the same fund, so it's not actually debt.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Any other questions from the commission? Commissioner Martin.
You said the 16% reduction in debt, was that a net after the $400,000 in new?
Mr. Mayor, yes, sir.
Okay.
Any other questions? Does the audience have any questions?
Mr. Mayor, if you, at this point, would you like me to read the resolution by title only?
Please do so.
This will be resolution number 2017-13, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, adopting amendments to the fiscal year 2016-2017 budget and providing for severability, conflicts, and effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass resolution number 2017-13 as read by title only.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth and a second from Commissioner Glanzer. All right, way to get in there. Well done. All right. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
All right, Mike, we'll move
Thank you,
to
Dallas.
item B.
Everybody's favorite topic. Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, before you get in there, just for the people who haven't been here, this is our second reading, so if we seem to flippantly go through this, we don't mean to. This moratorium in no way is meant to establish a policy to reflect negatively on medical marijuana. This is simply a let's let everybody get their ducks in a row before we move on it. So with that being said, Mr. Manager.
Mr. Mayor, Brian Thomas from the Planning Department is going to present very briefly or to the extent that the Commission wishes.
Briefly?
Any details related to proposed ordinance 2017-04.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Basically, as we've discussed a couple of times now, this allows the city to sort of take a breather until either the state legislature or Department of Health catch up and issue rules for that govern the use of medical marijuana in the state of Florida based on the charter amendment that passed, not charter amendment, the constitutional amendment that passed allowing medical marijuana use. As many of you may have heard, the legislature failed to come up with anything in this last part of the session, so it's still kind of up in the air. This will give us that breathing room we need. Idea being that we don't want to set up any guidelines that then are preempted by the state action. So it gives us 6 months basically to wait, find out how the legislature is going to respond, and then act accordingly.
All right. Does the commission have any questions for Brian on this topic? Does anybody in the audience have any questions for Brian about the moratorium? Mr. Attorney?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. This is ordinance number 2017-04, an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, imposing a temporary moratorium or abatement upon the acceptance and/or processing of applications for zoning and permitting for the establishment of medical marijuana dispensing facilities for a period of 180 days, repealing all ordinances in conflict and providing for severability and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2017-04 upon its reading by second reading by title only.
Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion to accept the amendment.
Motion made by Commissioner Glanzer and seconded by Commissioner McGehee. Do we have any further comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, roll call. Commissioner Coleman. Commissioner McGehee. Commissioner Farnsworth. Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Commissioner Glanzer.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1. And we're moving on to agenda items. Topics for the City of Newberry Commission, Alachua County Board of Commissioners. Mike, do you have anything to suggest to us?
I do, Mr. Mayor. Provided in our staff report, I've provided a list of 10 to 12 potential topics to discuss with the County Commission. I'll briefly run through them, and I will explain any that you have questions. I know many of them you're probably up to speed on. A couple of them may be things that staff is aware of that we haven't brought to your attention yet. First is to provide an expansion on the firehouse update, or an update on the firehouse expansion, and then the request where the county is. I understand there's been some changes with regards to their thinking about ambulance siting, so that could be a potential topic. A very hotly debated topic between the City of Gainesville and Alachua County is their gas tax distribution, what they're going to do with gas tax money. It impacts us, but we don't have a seat at the table, so we could get the county's perspective on where that's going. Alachua County Rails to Trails Initiative, there's a lot of discussion about it, and they've presented to us once, but the county continues to move forward with a plan for Rails to Trail, and Newberry is a component of that, and we could get an update on that. The CRA update, probably the biggest news in the CRA update, we're getting very close at the staff level. The state legislature was preempting CRAs, but we got news today that proposed bill was going to be dead for this year. So that gives us a few months to try to put things in place. But that's a potential topic. An interlocal for solid waste. This would be one of those that hasn't been presented to the City Commission. We currently, we have a few unpaved roads in Newberry that we maintain. Watermelon Pond Road, Holder Grade would be examples. We have county residents that live down that road. We have City of Newberry residents that live down that road. So consequently, every week we have garbage trucks from 2 different companies going down that road to pick up garbage, and they each bypass a certain number of properties. The thought is that we could enter an agreement, just draw a rectangle and say everybody inside the rectangle, whether they're a city resident or a county resident, would take garbage service from the city. And in order to do that, there would just be an interlocal agreement between the city and the county that says that that's the way it's going to be, we agree, and here's how we're going to decide on the rates. So that's a potential discussion item. There's a lot of discussion with those unpaved roads about who's responsible to maintain them. It could be a discussion. Staff has been working on it for 2 years with their staff, so the staffs are pretty well up to speed on that. And we could prepare enough information so that there would be good discussion at the commission level. Update on wild spaces, public places is a thought. We understand that the county will probably be looking at some sort of road improvement ballot initiative in 2018. We could ask for a preview on that. Law enforcement services is something you're very familiar with. It's always a good idea, in my opinion, to talk about the successes we've enjoyed in interlocal agreements with the county when we venture into a project. Champions is a great example. It's been very successful from the county's perspective in terms of putting heads in beds. So we could give them an update. I don't know how frequently the county commission gets updates on what's happening at Champions. We know the county stormwater and wetlands regulation. We've seen that update, and we've agreed that we disagree on that with them, but they still haven't tipped their hand as to whether they intend to make that countywide or not. So that's a potential topic. And the county is also working on a stormwater assessment, which wouldn't impact us, but that issue has come up quite a few times, as whether they intend for the assessment to go countywide. I don't think legally they have the ability to do that. Final thing before you begin discussing that is that typically in our meeting times, we have time to get through 3 or 4 meaty issues and maybe have a presentation or 2. So staff would not recommend that we try to even get half of these, but pick the best 4 or 5 off of this list. I'll convey that to the county manager, and we'll set an agenda.
I would agree, and even maybe say we try to limit it to 4, because once we get into a conversation, it can sometimes run a little bit long. I'd like to put a plug in for the road maintenance agreement. I've been working with Jamie for probably 18 months, the 2 years he's been on, and getting updates from him. It is a royal mess. So, and I think we've reached the point now where staff has done all the talking from staff to staff, and I think it's time for the elected officials to get up to speed on what staff has and to try to advocate and lobby for each other. So I would ask for that one to be on, because I'm not sure that we can make too much more progress at the staff level. What does the commission think about that and other items? Commissioner McGehee?
Where are we going to be with the law enforcement contract by the time this comes around? Because, I mean, I understand the desire to talk about that with the county, because, you know, they are pretty heavily involved with it, whether they want to be or not, or whether we want them to be or not. But I worry about getting in the weeds with them, something said, and it kind of knocked everything off the rails.
I would actually suggest that we not put the law enforcement on there, because with the contract, the county is only peripherally involved. I mean, this is really a negotiation between us and ASO, and the county is just a pass-through for the payment. So, you know, we'll handle our own law enforcement services, and I'm not sure inviting them into that conversation is necessarily an appropriate thing to do. Commissioner Martin?
The 4 things that are attracting me are the roads, the firehouse, champions, and the CRA.
I would also agree the CRA is pretty important. Commissioner Glanzer?
Well, the stormwater issue is of great importance to me. I mean, with the new regulations they're discussing, bringing through, the cost is pretty devastating to growth and development. So I'd like to see that on there, definitely.
And I was under the opinion that we had kind of beat that horse to death, but I think with the new commissioner, I think it would be good for you to have a chance to, maybe you can have a crack at communicating with these guys better than we have done in the past.
Well, okay. We'll see how that goes.
You know, so I'm hearing Commissioner Farnsworth. Do you have anything on there? Does that sound good to you?
I think the champions, the roads, CRA are the ones that I would like to focus on.
All right. And Commissioner Coleman?
Stormwater with catch to that is our home rule thing, but I know that probably will come up. And roads, CRA, and champions. Those are my 4.
I would,
stormwater being the number 1 thing.
Okay. But that sounds about. We went through that fast. Stormwater, CRA, roads, everybody has said.
Those 3.
What was the 4th one for you, Commissioner Martin?
Firehouse?
Firehouse. I think that would be good. I believe the firehouse will be a fairly short one, and I think the stormwater would be a fairly short one too. I think most of the commissioners have said their piece, but it would be a nice chance to get their thoughts. And
Mike, do you have more to the story as far as the reprioritizing of the ambulance locations?
I do. Chief Buckner has way more to the story than I do, but he's
However.
no longer available, so I will. I'll do a little bit better than wing it. I know more than just straight wing. Yes, educated winging it. The county has these adopted master service plans, and the master service plans have always called for ambulances to be stored in this priority, and we were down the list 3 or 4. And we've now moved to the top of that list. Problem was, a year or so ago, the county kind of went away from putting ambulances in firehouses permanently. They like we're going to put them on the road, and they're going to stay on the road, and they're just going to be available for a call. And that was their where they were going, and that's what led them to state last year at our joint meeting that it probably was unlikely that they would ever be an ambulance in Newberry. They're just moving away from that model. Something happened that I don't have the full backstory to, but we understand that they've decided to stick with the master plan. which would mean that the next ambulance purchased would be put in Newberry if they stick with the master plan. And we understand that they're planning to budget for one this coming year. So there's a chance that it could come really quickly. But this is some out in the bleachers understanding of what we're seeing. We're watching this game, and that's what we think's happening. But putting it on the agenda would give us an opportunity to hear them say what they're thinking is.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Martin.
if we, as a matter of pitch, went through with the champion highlights, talking about how many people are out there, possibly touching on how many people are out at Gatorback on a regular basis per annum. Although I know they hire staff in to sit there directly, I think it kind of builds the case, and then we drop in the ambulance bay expansion photos, whatever, to sell it. Sure, Easton, Gator Cup.
And people with bows and arrows at Easton.
Deadly weapons.
And the RC Park.
And the RC Park.
I too would suggest a strategic approach to the agenda. Maybe we'll get all of the friendly conversations out of the way before we get to the stormwater. But all right, do we have consensus on the 4 staff? Feel like you have 5, but we feel like 2 of them will be kind of short. Do we need a motion for that, or is this just a discussion?
All right, here's my list. My list is stormwater, roads, CRA, Champions Park update, firehouse update. We don't need a vote. We'll get that. We'll strategically put it out there with the friendly, build that rapport, and then go on to the tougher issues.
All right. Any citizens' comments on those items for discussion? Okay, hearing none, we will move into comments. City Manager.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, I have a few. I guess we'd start with, we enjoyed our Westfest, our inaugural Westfest music festival yesterday at Lois Fort Park. It seemed to be very well received, I guess would how I would put it. We had a nice turnout, nicer than expected. The folks that attended, the vendors, the bands, got real positive feedback from everyone. I want to offer, it was a lot of hard work on staff. Some of them really committed to it like it was the most important thing in their lives, and I so appreciated that. So thank you, staff, for your hard work. The Newberry-Jonesville Chamber and Newberry Main Street organization really pitched in. We had a number of sponsors. They're on all of our literature. Please thank them. It really helped make for a nice event. Had a nice time, and it was successful enough that we think that we would entertain trying to make it an annual event. So we're going to start work. We're going to regroup. We're going to figure out what we could do better, and maybe plan one again for next spring. We do. We're going to try to get as many thank you cards as my poor writer's cramp can handle. But we got, there's a lot of people to thank. There were a lot of people exactly. Well, we're happy to share. Tomorrow morning, we're going to be in Gainesville at the Alachua County Board of County Commission meeting. They have 2 items that are of interest to to Newberry. The first is our grant project for the Wild Spaces money is submitted, and they're going to consider that. That's on consent, and I've not gotten any indication that it'll be pulled, so I assume that's going to be fine. They knew what the project was going to be. We just put it in writing. The second is amendment number 3 for the Champions Park interlocal. We're adjusting some of the projects that the money can fund. We still have about $100,000 left over from our refunding. And one of those projects is a little bit controversial. It turns out that the water system that was designed is just undersized. So whenever the park is at capacity and we run 90 teams in there, the water system can't keep up with the demand. So we've had low pressure, we've had no pressure types of things. And it's not a deficiency as in it's worn out and it needs to be replaced. It was designed undersized. And so we believe that means that it should be funded similar to the fences. It was a design error. and this money paid for fences because the county's pretty insistent that they don't pay for O&M. They're only going to pay for capital expenses. So, but it was easy for everybody to go out and see the fences and say, oh yeah, I see what you're saying. It's a lot harder to go look at a 100-gallon tank and say, yeah, that won't help for 90 teams. And the investment is pushing $20,000. The fix is $20,000, or limit the number of teams that can be there on a given day. So we'll be going to, yeah, just don't let them use the water. So, so we're going to go and make a pitch. This would be an issue that a text or a phone call to members of the Board of County Commissioners, particularly Commissioner Cornell, Chair Cornell, has some trouble with this. And so if you do reach out to county commissioners, I wouldn't discourage you from doing that. I sent, yes, sir.
What is the fix?
The fix is to replace the existing, it's a storage tank that allows the chlorine to have proper contact time so that it will properly disinfect. Is to replace the existing tank, which I believe is a 200-gallon tank, with one that's appropriately sized, which is 1,000 gallons. Am I right about the 1,200? So we just, it's not only slightly undersized, it's about 20% of the size that it needs to be. So it's short of that. We're going to have we're going to really be out of compliance with our permit. Before we knew about it, we get a free pass. We know about it now. We need to take some action, which would either be reduce the demand on the system to something that it can handle, or replace this component so that we can serve the demand that's being seen at the park.
Commissioner Glanzer.
That you said that they're happy that we're putting heads in beds, and it's been a good thing. But if we reduce the, if we have to reduce the number of teams we can have, that's going to reduce the number of heads in beds. So when you're saying if we have to reduce the number of teams that come, to what degree? Have you thought about that? I mean, if I'm going to write a letter, I'd like to say, if we reduce the teams by half, you're going to lose, that many heads in your hotels.
When we see tournaments that are, the tank is about 20% of the size that it's supposed to be. I think that if we ran the numbers to determine what the appropriate number would be, we'd probably be limiting the teams to 50 or 60.
Wow.
A tournament
instead of 90.
Instead of 90. I mean, right now there really is no limit. 90 is about as many people as you can put in that park. So that's the limiting factor.
Yeah.
But that vote is going to happen first thing in the morning. Okay. So letter writing is going to probably be more email writing or texting. Just
I'll
make
share
sure y'all know when the
Cornell's
vote is.
Email or cell phone with you, so you can text him.
Yeah.
Text him tonight about 3 o'clock in the morning. I hear 3 a.m. tweets are pretty effective, so maybe 3 a.m. text.
Is he the only one that's really pushing against
that we're
it?
aware of? He sits on the TDC board, and he struggled with it at that point. Now, I've discussed it with the county manager, who, interestingly enough, was department head over parks and is a licensed water and wastewater operator, or was in the day. So he gets it, which is nice. So he said he would absolutely advocate for us on this. In terms of explaining it, it really comes down to a board decision after that. I gave notice that the CRA bill had been put on lull for this year, put on hold, won't be heard. That's good news for Newberry. The boards and committees, just so that y'all know, staff has been working on doing some updating for boards and committees. We will present that at the next meeting or the first meeting in June. So I know you're anxiously awaiting that. We have been talking about budget and been working on budget since January, but we got serious about it today. All the submittals are turned in, and now Dallas has got me doing this extraordinary marathon meetings to see what we're going to include in the budget. So just wanted to pass that along, and we'll start sharing that with y'all in June. I think we've scheduled meetings, one-on-one meetings between now and June to kind of get your input as to how you'd like to see us build the budget from the outset. Final comment. You passed a proclamation recognizing Public Service Recognition Week. And you all are public servants. You are at the front line, leading edge of public service, so thank you all for what you do. You also know a bunch of other public service. The City of Newberry employs about 80 of us, so this is a good week to recognize them, and as you're out and about doing your daily walk, thank a public service worker for what they do.
Thank you. Does that conclude your
That's it.
thoughts?
That concludes.
Ms. Judy? I'm sorry, I went out of order. Mr. Attorney? All right, thank you. Commissioner Coleman?
I'm going to give my time to Commissioner Jason here. He's got quite a bit of that.
All right. 3, 4 pages?
No.
All right, Commissioner McGee.
Just want to kind of echo what the city manager said about West Fest. I thought it was a just outstanding event. I was really impressed with the work that staff put into this, and we had a little tent out there, made a little bit of money. I had a lot of people coming up to me asking, are you happy you made money? And my response to them was, what made me really happy was to see the city manager walking around with his chest poked out a little bit, smiling, because I've seen how much stress he was under, hoping that this thing worked out. And talking with him last night, I think it kind of exceeded everyone's expectations, and it was just a great family event. Looking forward to the one next year. Glad to hear that we're going to try to do it again next year. With that being said, I think that, one thing I'd like to do, we're going to start talking about this wild spaces money, is, that stage that we had out there, that's about $1,500. So if this is going to be an annual event, or I had several people coming up to me saying, we need to do more of these. We need to do more of this kind of stuff. I think there would be some buy-in from the citizens to look into the possibility of building a band shell out there, or perhaps some kind of portable, stage or whatever. I don't know. It's just, it's something that I really think when we start talking about wild spaces money, that I'd like to at least look and see what the cost would be.
Before you move on from that thought, I just wanted to say I have had teachers, drama sponsors from elementary, middle, and high echo those same sentiments to me about wishing there was some outdoor venue, someplace that was just sort of permanently set up that you could schedule and rent and put on events, put on shows. I know Relay for Life always needs a stage, so if there was a set place that was just sort of there. So, not to cut you off, but just wanted to add to.
Talking to Mrs. Stainfield yesterday, she was so impressed with how well, I think with getting the power put in out there and having that event and having it be as successful as it was, it kind of shines a light on really kind of an untapped resource that we've had. That it's always been there. It's just we've kind of shined the diamond up a little bit. But I just really impressed with the work that staff put into making that happen. Do we have an update on the broadband feasibility?
The effort is underway. The contract work is underway by our consultant, but I haven't received any type of update on the report.
Okay. And then the final thing, I had talked about this, I guess it was probably about 6 months ago. Do we have any update on the possibility of utilizing the banners that we have the banner hangers? I know that Jamie was looking into that with DOT.
I know we've done some research. You're able to make a response?
I checked with the DOT about that issue, and they say that the banners cannot be used for commercial purposes on a state highway.
Okay. All right. That's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Farnsworth.
I was just kind of curious, is there any kind of update on the grid system that we were contemplating?
The AMI?
Yeah.
We are poised. We've been working with FMPA, who wants to make a project for all of their members. So we've met with them 3 to 4 times. I would say the steam, the wind in the sails that we're moving so good with Newberry, We slowed a bit because of the SCADA system project and a number of issues we experienced on the water wastewater side that took that focus away. And I think we're ready to begin gearing back up and looking back hard again at it. It was just fix a system that affects our daily operation or develop an RFP for something that's going to help us be better into the future.
Is that something that's going to potentially be on in the next budget?
Absolutely, in the next budget you'll be seeing it, and we'll begin to go through some of the exercises to put the RFP together between now and the next fiscal year.
Mr. Manager, if that's going to be a budgetary debate, then I think we need to go ahead and maybe invite that vendor back to give us the workshop again. We got a new commissioner. I think did we ever have the second one? I know the first one, we had a lot of absent commissioners, so that we are all on the same page. Yeah. So that I don't want to get into the budget and start debating $1 million budget item unless everybody's really clear on the pros, the cons, where the money's coming from, what the service can offer, and those kind of things. So if it's going to be presented to us in the budget, I think we need to make sure we're all on that page. And that was a fairly lengthy workshop to get through all of that information.
Yes, sir. And Mr. Mayor, I tell you what, point well taken. We will schedule that to happen. Not sure, I'll have to discuss with the vendor on the timing on that. Also, I think that the vendor would appreciate it if we're able to go, as staff, go a little bit further into what we think our exact needs are, so that there's a little more refinement. I don't want them to get the impression that they're going to give us a bunch of dog and pony shows and we're not sincere. So I want to make sure that we are, once we get clear direction from the commission, that we are poised to go, and that there's not a lot of, well, we got to do this, 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 and this in order to be able to go. Be happy to bring our new commissioner, Commissioner Glanzer, up to speed on where we've been with the basics prior to that presentation.
It's very exciting, but very expensive. So, yeah, always. Was that your comments, Commissioner Farnsworth? Commissioner Martin?
I just wanted to remind everyone the Newberry Watermelon Festival is going to be on the 20th out at Easton this year. If you have any information, or need any information rather, or if you need to make application as a vendor, the website's newberrywatermelonfestival.com.
Parade lineup starts at 8 o'clock. The parade starts at 9. They welcome anybody, tractors, dogs, walking. Anybody who wants to be in a parade. And the lineup is still the same, I believe. They'll begin at Walker's Produce Stand and go down towards the fire station. So if you want to be involved in it, get there about 8 o'clock. And Miss Kathy and other Watermelon Festival committee members will help direct you. And we expect all the commissioners at the watermelon seed spitting contest, reigning champion Commissioner Coleman's going down this year. My money's on Commissioner Farnsworth. Yeah, he's the Panther Open champion, so I mean he's racking them up this year. So,
Mr. Mayor, I got one thing to say. The Newberry Golf Tournament, if we would have made it around to the last hole, you're going to bring it up?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll let you.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to rain on the Seminoles parade, but.
Is there going to be some other type of vehicle for us to ride in this year in the Watermelon Parade?
Are you saying that the fire truck is not a safe vehicle for?
I had to walk.
We did have to exit the vehicle at some point in time. I think it's been repaired.
I'm not certain we're ready to make promises on that. We've been struggling with the repair on this.
I know that the city manager has a very fancy cart that we could probably hop on and ride.
A golf cart. Golf carts.
We just received the fire truck back from RPM Thursday, and it's supposedly dependable.
All right. He put a fuel injection in that thing. And
they have assured me it can make the parade and back.
It can make the parade and back. All right. And I have been asked on the Watermelon Festival for Commissioner Glanzer for the commissioners to please be present at the auction. They'd like to recognize you guys and let folks know that you're there. Commissioner Glanzer.
Thank you. And I also wanted to say how wonderful it was at West Fest. I couldn't believe it was in Newberry. We were having real live music, local music. It was awesome. And regarding that, when we were talking about the wild places and public spaces money, I heard the common desire was to, upgrade facilities that we already have. And I can't think of a better, project than to have a band shell. I mean, there were so many families and lawn chairs, and I just never saw so many people in one place enjoying themselves for such a long period. They would stay for hours, so I would like to see that. And the second thing is the sheriff highlighted the case of Lila Leach back in 2010, and then about the next year is when we were approving plans for Lois Fort Park. Well, the unfortunate crime happened right where the park tees with Miss Leach's road, and so on behalf of the family, I requested that maybe we could plant a memorial garden, with a little bench and some pretty flowers there. And the commission at that time approved it. And Paul Stressing, our architect, I think he even put it into the design, but it kind of got overlooked. And I'd like to see if we could bring it back. Maybe we could find the minutes where it was approved, and maybe we could do that even these years later. But nothing sad, but something happy with flowers. She loved flowers, and a bench, just little memorial garden there. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Absolutely. If we agreed to do that, maybe the city clerk can send us an email. The city manager covered the committee assignments, so we weren't going to go through all of that until we saw which committees made it through the ringer, so to say, which ones are active and in use. I did want to let staff know, I've talked to all of you, so I'm not letting anything out of the bag, but I do intend to appoint Commissioner Martin to be the Parks and Rec liaison, and I know that committee potentially may be undergoing some changes. So if staff could begin including him on any emails and correspondence so that he's up to speed on what's going on, I would appreciate it. I also intend to appoint Commissioner Glanzer to the Main Street Committee. I'm pretty sure that one will. That takes a lot from me. That committee's got my heart, but I'll let you know so that you can begin. I'll ask Jean to make sure that you're on those, and we'll see what other committees are still in existence. I wanted to add my thanks to the staff for the West Fest. I was all geared up. I had my cell phone charged and my charger ready to get the noise complaints and the parking complaints and those kinds of things. Silence. I didn't get one complaint. I didn't get one complaint the whole day. And to me, that speaks volumes that it was a well-run, everybody was on their best behavior. It went off without a hitch, and that shows the amount of planning that went into it. So we certainly appreciate that. I did want to give the commission an update from the Alachua County League of Cities on the stormwater. And just let you know that we are not the only municipality that feels this way. It's pretty much every city, including Gainesville, has the same perspective about this initiative that we do, and multiple of the cities are contemplating litigation costs in upcoming. Pretty much the unanimous consent is to encourage the county to write whatever they want to write, but put an opt-in clause. That's what we're all asking. So. So just to let you know, everybody's on the same page. We all feel the same way. And we are, the Alachua County League of Cities, a united front speaking to the Board of County Commissioners saying we're not in favor of this. We're not behind this. Allow us to opt in. The next Alachua County is in the city of Alachua, the League of Cities. Yeah, it's in Alachua, and I don't remember the date off the top of my head. But those are always interesting to go to, a great chance to network. And you don't have to be unappointed. It's not an official committee, so if anybody wants to come and just sort of reach out to the other cities, certainly welcome to do so. And then I have requested, I want to thank first Commissioner Coleman and McGehee agreeing to grill for Senior Days upcoming May 18th. They're going to cook some hot dogs and hamburgers for potentially 100 kids, so I appreciate that. And I want to thank Spacewalk in Gainesville for helping us meet our budgetary confines to make sure those kids have some entertainment. So we appreciate that. Those kids are still in need of pop-up tents. If you've got one of those 10 by 10 pop-up tents that we can borrow, not have for the day, tables, chairs, May 18th. I'd like to set up or have everything, because I want to be out there early in the morning setting up. So if you got anything to let us borrow, May 17th would kind of be what I'd be looking to get it. So we're going to do it on the football field. So be right there on the football field. And then if you're at the grocery store and you want to buy an extra 12-pack of soda or a case of water or something and donate it, you can drop it off at the front office of the high school. You can send me a message on Facebook or call me. I'll come into your house and pick it up. Anything to help keep the cost down and make sure we send this class of 2017 out with a bang. And I believe that will wrap it up for me. And we'll have citizen comments. I told you I didn't want to rain on the Seminoles Parade. We all know that you would have hit the longest drive on hole 13 had I let you get around there to it. But
I just want to
please state your name.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Ms. Peggy.
I'm Peggy Lloyd. This was a compliment for Mr. New. I'm a citizen, yes, among other things.
And Mr. New's going to stand right there at the door to hear that comment.
He really looks good in a green T-shirt and cap.
And his son is a fine musician too. Yeah. All right.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah. We won't tell him. Yeah. Any other citizen comments? Hearing none, we are adjourned.